and run on.
As we all know, there have been many film adaptations of Godzilla since the original film was released in Japan back in the 1950s. There were several that was like Godzilla versus King Kong and Godzilla versus all these other monsters that really weren't meant to be taken seriously. That were almost comedies, just kind of silly. Then, of course, you had the 1998 film that everybody remembers that was just a joke. Now, I'm happy to say that Godzilla is back on the big screen in 2014, and it's very serious. This is more in the vein of what the original film Godzilla was like. This movie does start off a little clunky, not bad exactly. It's just that it's a little bit hard to get a grip on what's going on, and you feel like something is not really right about it. And the problem with it is it starts off with a flashback, and that leads right into another flashback. And you haven't really seen the present day, so you really don't have no point of reference to know when these events are occurring. And that makes it a little bit confusing. But Bryan Cranston is excellent in the first part of this movie, and that's what really makes it all work. But the chronology is a little bit hard to get a grip on early, but that does work itself out as the movie goes on and explains itself, so it's not a big problem. The main thing that's accomplished here is the atmosphere that's set. It's a very dark, a very foreboding atmosphere. You get the feeling right from the start of the movie that there is an epic disaster of apocalyptic proportions that's about to happen here. It's a really great score, the best musical score so far this year. The visual effects are fantastic. This is some of the best use of CGI I have ever seen. This movie is a visual experience. Every time you see Godzilla, and you wait a pretty good while in the movie to see Godzilla because they build up this anticipation, which is good. But every time you see Godzilla, it is a genuine visual experience. This is a pretty realistic film, at least as realistic as a Godzilla movie is going to be. And I actually attribute that to the acting. This cast is phenomenal. With Bryan Cranston, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Ken Watanabe. The cast is wonderful, and everybody's on top of their game. There's nobody in this movie that does not turn in a stellar performance. And that's the reason why you get the realistic feeling from this movie, because you're getting genuine emotional responses from the actors. The actors are making you buy this because the way that they're reacting to it is how people actually would react to this kind of thing. And also the visual effects are good, and it looks realistic every time you see Godzilla. You know, he looks like a great big huge monster walking around. It looks like he has weight to him. You know, like he moves like an animal. You know, he don't move like a TV monster. He moves like an animal would. You know, and it looks like a real thing. And these elements make the movie feel realistic, and that makes the movie actually scary, which is something I can't say about very many monster movies that I've ever seen. I only had really one major problem with this movie that I can think of, and that's the way that Aaron Taylor Johnson's character was handled. I did like the way the character was written. He was a bomb expert of some type for the military, and he had come home, and through a series of circumstances, he ended up getting caught up in all this stuff that was going on. So he was really torn through most of the movie about what he should do. Should he fulfill his duty with his country and do his job, or should he go home and protect his wife and his son? And that was an internal struggle that I really liked. What I didn't like was the way that they showed this guy being just a little bit too perfect and a little bit too superhuman. Like he would go through these things, and you'd think, well, there's no way that he got through that, and then he would. And he always seemed to make the right choices. The character was a little bit too unrealistic. One thing about this film that was very impressive to me, especially for this day and age, is how clean it was. And I didn't even realize that until later in the day, after I had seen the movie. I actually can't remember any bad language at all in this movie. And it's impressive. The impressive thing is that this movie can achieve those effects that it's trying to achieve for adults and still have the movie be clean enough that you could take some kids to it, or some young teenagers to it. It's probably too scary, I would say, for young kids. But if I had a son that was, say, 9 or 10 years old, I wouldn't have a problem with him seeing this movie. I thought this film was marketed really well from the very beginning. From the very first teaser that I saw, I was excited about this movie. And I saw several other trailers, and they never gave too much away. They never showed too much, but they showed just enough to get me really interested and really wanting to see this thing. And that's kind of a rarity these days, when we got so many trailers that are just awful. I thought this movie was marketed perfectly, and I expected it to be good going in. And lo and behold, we get a movie in 2014 that is marketed well. The trailer didn't give everything in the movie away, and it's actually a good movie. The first act of the movie is just a little bit clumsy, like I said, but the climax is terrific, and the ending is absolutely perfect. I give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. It is honestly one of the best monster movies I have ever seen. I'm the Movie Man. Thanks for watching. If you want to read my written reviews and get a little more detail on this movie or any other movie that's come out recently, you can click on my Facebook link, and please post a comment or a response video. Let me know what you thought of this movie if you've seen it. I'm the Movie Man, and that's a wrap.